Be a quick video. This is just to say that Garfield and Ngozi are lying about SOY Keita's Popstr assessment of ancient Egyptians. And it's a lie of omission because what they're saying is, and they'll try to argue that nobody really gets into this, that SOY Keita is somehow two-faced or biased, and they don't get into it because it's a low sample size and you can't really draw that much information from such a low sample size of STRs. And that is a lie of omission. It's a lie. I mean, it's BS because with those same amount of STRs, you could take Ngozi, you could take Garfield, you could take Smash, you could take Wu Jiao, and those same amount of STRs, 99% of the time are going to say that these are African American people. And yes, it's true, it's not a lot of STRs, and it's true that recombination could yield results that are inconsistent with a larger sample size. The thing is, where they're dishonest, is that 4.5 Egyptians were tested. When I say 4.5, I'll break it down as it is. It's Yuya Thuya, who are not directly related, Amenhotep III, who is not directly related to Yuya and Thuya. That's 3. Then you take Ramses III, different dynasty, not directly related, and that's 4. Then you have Ramses III's son, so you can't really count his son completely because he overlaps with Ramses III's genes. But you do have his kid's mom, 4.5. And again, like the same as Akhenaten, Nefertiti, they're the children of Yuya and Tuya, so you can't count them. And since Tut is inbred, and he's the child of the mummy believed to be Nefertiti and Akhenaten, that means you can't count Tut either. So even though others were tested, it still breaks down to 4.5 individual people, and 4.5 out of 4.5 when the same data that I've used, because I used PopSTR on an old video years ago, like this isn't mythical shit and they're trying to make it out to be something that we don't understand, and that is dishonest. Because that same data would predict that I'm sub-Saharan African. Now, if you really want to get to one thing that they could say is that you have to combine, you have to combine North African or damn near every African American. Probably a lot of like Central Africans will show up as North African if you separate. And that's just because they have a really terrible population database for Africans. But that does not invalidate it at all. If anything, if they had a more diverse group for Africans, because I broke this down in an old video where I looked at their population database and I'm like, yo, this is weak in Africa, but it's great outside Africa. But if you had that, it would probably change the numbers so it would be stronger. And it might separate North African and Sub-Saharan African to some degree, but when you really look at these actual STRs, then you can see that they're shared with people, you know, around the areas that blew up when 42 tribes, well, not 42 tribes, when DNA tribes ran the same data. So you could maybe say that if it had a stronger North African population, it would pull North African or Egypt directly, modern Egypt, better than it does. But also you have to remember the North African that you typically see on population genetics studies and in the database, it's usually like Northwest, North Central African Berber, not necessarily modern Egyptians. So it might crisscross into like the Siwa Berbers of Egypt, but it's not necessarily going to be a big portion of someone's ancestry like Akhenaten or whatever. Let's see. Oh, and one other way that they're deceptive is they act like this is not, because they make note of how it's 8 STRs, but then they don't realize like it's 8 STR slots, 2 pairs, so it's really 16 STRs. And I haven't really looked up how many different possible outcomes, but let's just say 16 slots with 10 possible outcomes. And what you start to talk about is hundreds of thousands, millions of possible combinations. So it's very discriminatory. And that's why Pop STR, or especially like DNA Tribes, which has a stronger database, could take those same STRs and tell you that you're an African American. 4.5 out of 4.5 times, easy. So the way that they're presenting it to people, it's just so dishonest. So I'm speaking truth to deception in this video, and that is it. Bye. See you later. I'm out.